So, Peter, I was really excited to talk with you because you have a definitely a different spin on things. I haven't spoken to many folks that are co-founders of a brand, but also work in another capacity for a brand. So I want to start out by talking about your role as Director of Franchise Development at 1-800-Plumber Plus Air. So the company's been around since what, right? You started franchising in 2018, right?
2018, yes, 2018, yep.
How did the concept start and when did you come aboard?
So I came aboard about like a year or so later. The brand was actually, our CEO, Mark Collins, was a franchisee of just 1-800-Plumber. It used to be just 1-800-Plumber, a plumbing franchise. He acquired the rights to the franchise as a franchisee and became effectively the new franchisor, and decided there's an opportunity here in home services where no one else is in the combination of plumbing and HVAC space. So before we actually went live with the combination model, we test piloted it for a number of years. And then when we launched the Plus Air portion of our franchise, we effectively became the only emerging franchisor in home services that combine plumbing and HVAC into one franchise model. So that's going to be the biggest attractive the part to our franchise, is that uniqueness there. Because in franchising, you're going to have your HVAC brands, you're going to have your plumbing brands, you even have your drain cleaning brands. And the 1-800-Plumber Plus Air model is going to take all of that and put it into one frugal investment for our candidates, for our Zs. I came on a couple of years later. I actually started as a general manager of a franchisee's location here on Long Island. So I got that experience of learning what that was like to start a location from scratch, from onboarding to training to hiring and recruiting. And I came from a different walk of life altogether. I'm not a plumber. In fact, my wife would tell you, like, don't touch the tools because that's probably going to lead to us needing a bigger expense or a bigger project in our home.
Yeah, me too.
That's not a joke. That is reality. I am like horrible when it comes to learning how to fix things. I was not given that God-given talent, but I was a graphic designer. I was in the sign and graphic space for about 15 years or so before I kind of came into 1-800-Plumber. I actually was a CEO of my own franchise in the sign and graphic space, and I had sold that franchise to the Fast Signs executive team. So when I exited out of that industry, I was kind of looking at what I wanted to do, and I found a nice home service company called 1-800-Plumber Plus Air here in my backyard, and then that's kind of that was like my foot into the business. A couple of years later, I decided to apply for a position here with the support team. They hired me right away, and it was an amazing transition from general manager to into the franchise development space, because I had a lot of that background. I had a lot of that knowledge of what it really took for someone to be successful in this brand. And I ran an operation for several months, 2 years to be exact, pretty well. And for someone that has never done that before, I still take pride in the fact that somebody like me can run a blue collar operation and scale a blue collar operation as we did. And that's the amazing part about my role with 1-800-Plumber Plus Air, is that I get to tell that story consistently throughout the week about what it takes to be successful in this business with people who were once in my shoes or want to be in the shoes that I was once in. That's what I do. I love working in the franchise development department with my team. Yes, like you said, it's a little odd. It's a little bit strange. Maybe you don't get to talk to too many people that have dual roles, but as it may seem, the operations model of the 1-800-Plumber Plus Air business model was so amazingly simple for me to pick up on that I fell in love with it. There was simplicity in the model. There were KPIs that I can relate to. I remember talking to my coach at the time when I was just a general manager and saying to him, so you're telling me that if I learn these KPIs and can improve on these 5, 6, 7 KPIs, that I would actually be a successful home service business owner? Yeah, that was basically the answer. It's like, absolutely. Focus on improving these areas and you should see the success. And then I kind of just had that aha moment, right? Which led to saying to myself, man, I wonder what other businesses this model can be applied to. Several years later, as I was kind of exploring this question in my career, I decided I was like, I was going to apply this to a business model that exists, but doesn't quite exist with this operations model that we have here on the 1-800-Plumber Plus Air side. So when I was looking at business ownership, I'm currently employed. I'm looking at investment opportunities to diversify myself. And I started exploring the drywall repair space. Now, I don't exactly know when this started, but I fell in love with the drywall repair space. In fact, this is actually when I first met Aaron Harper, when he was working in Frandev for the Patch Boys. So he introduced me to the business model, and I absolutely loved it. I don't exactly remember when that was, but it was around the time where he and I were still younglings in franchising, I guess, if you'll say. He starts telling me I start digging and doing some due diligence, and I realize I actually really don't like the business model that they're portraying, but instead I love the 1-800-Plumber Plus Air business model. Can it be like this? And I was getting a lot of pushback. As a candidate, you don't want to change their model.
Sure.
This is what's proven. This is the model that works. This is what you got to do. And I respect that. I deal with that every day. So I respect it. But as I kept going down due diligence with other drywall repair brands, I started to realize none of what's currently there is like our 1-800-Plumber model. The simplicity of it, the owner doesn't have a core component in the transaction with the consumer. And I started to realize, okay, I got something here. We have something here. So with my CEO's blessing, I decided to open up my own drywall repair business and test pilot it for a bit and say, I'm going to use the 1-800-Plumber model that has been known to perform millions of dollars in revenue with plumbing and HVAC technicians. And I'm going to apply that same model for a drywall repair technician. Nothing else is going to change except for what the actual physical task is that we're doing. We're no longer turning a wrench, but we are swinging some spackle knives. And let me tell you, it's been an amazing success. An amazing success that this model can be replicated across multiple home service sectors, including something that is very easy to get started with. It doesn't require a trades license in a lot of states. Getting this business up and going was running in 2 months, basically, after everything was built. And then we had this one conversation. We were at the Springboard conference in Philadelphia. Mark and I, the CEO of 1-800-Plumber Plus Air, and we're talking about, can we franchise this? I'm like, you bet your bottom we can. And that's exactly what we did. So now here we are. I guess I'm still employed here, but growing the 1-800-Plumber Plus Air brand and the Patch It Up brand here under my team.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.